This is the In Your Corner podcast from CBS News Philadelphia. I'm your host, Josh Sidorowicz. How old were you when you learned about money, when you first learned about money? Well, maybe you were never really taught at all. You had to learn the hard way. The number of Americans who say that they understand the basic financial principles has hovered right around 50% or so for almost the past decade. And surveys consistently show that most people say they wish they had learned more, especially when they were younger. So, on the pod today, since it is Financial Literacy Month, we are talking about how and when to start talking about money with kids. What's the money vibe like in your home? What lessons actually matter? And is it ever too early to start? We are breaking it all down from earning, saving, and spending to goal setting and growing money over time so we can raise smarter spenders and stronger savers. To help us do that, we are joined once again by certified financial planner, founder of Forge Wealth Management in Melbourne, and author of Superwoman Wealth, Regina McCann Hess. Welcome back.
Hello. Glad to be here again.
We love having you here. All right, let's get into this because this came up. It feels like a good time of year to talk about this anyways. But this comes up, I feel like, quite a bit. First, that people don't feel well-equipped enough themselves. So it's like, well, then how do you start with your kids?
I think it all goes into the education of them and building their foundation. So obviously you can't talk to them about percentages
Sure.
and things like that, but you can say like, okay, so one of the things I see often, and a mom of three, I had this happen. If you take them to the grocery store, you get into the chute, right, where you're in line, and the whole candy display is right there, or sometimes they have little toys, and it's, mommy, can I have that? Can I have that? And that's where you can have your basic conversation. Well, no, you can't have that because that costs this much money, and, you know, we didn't budget for that today. Or you could also go about like, hey, when we're out and about this week, you know, I know $1 doesn't go very far anymore. So we'll say $5, you know, $10, whatever the number is. If we're out and about this week and, you know, if you do these little chores in the house, which is for a little kid is like, oh, you put your toys away and you clean up after yourself, or you take your plate to the sink, things like that, to teach them the connection of you have to do something to earn the money, right? And then you say, okay, well, you have $10 to spend over the next week or two. And if you spend it, you can't go over. But if you go under, that money can go towards the following week or two. So that's a good way to liaison into it.
I feel like, too, you know, when I was younger, when kids are younger, you know, the concept of money maybe is hard to grasp anyways. But now, because money is so intangible, you know, everything's it's digital. It's in your phone. You tap your phone. You know, I can remember being handed like a $5 bill as a kid, and thinking like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
You know, now we're talking. I mean, do kids even know what cash is? What a coin is? You know, I don't know.
Sadly, no. And I know I have teenage, young 20-somethings, and they rarely use cash. I always try to force it on them, like, hey, you always have to have that emergency 20,
But
things
they
like
grew
that.
up with cash.
They did grow up with cash, but I think when they go to college, and even before that, I think the high schools, there's a lot of places that will not take cash. You go on a college campus, you go to a football game, it's mostly cashless. So they, you know, they just use the card for everything, which is really difficult because one of the best ways to budget is to like use envelopes. So, you know, our eating out budget this month, say it's $300 for a family of 5. That doesn't go very far.
No, not.
But you have $300 cash, you use it. Guess what? You're not going out to eat the rest of the month. You have to eat at home. With the phones, because it's on your phone, or if you have the credit card, you don't see it adding up. So the only way to counterbalance that is if you're truly interested in learning, you have a little app that, you know, takes accounting of what you're spending, and it might, you can actually attach it to your account, or you can manually do it. Old fashioned, you used to carry a little notebook and write everything down, but that's not going to happen right now. So we'll use an app for it.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I was saying kids, but money's sort of become abstract to most of us anymore because you're right, it is. It's like you swipe the card, you tap the phone. You don't really, unless it's when it used to be coming directly out of your wallet and you could see your wallet becoming thinner.
Yeah.
You know, that was your cue to stop spending. So it's kind of, that it's hard for everybody, right, to sort of grasp it these days. Okay, so let's go back to like when your kids were younger. I read something interesting. It was, and I forget where it was exactly, but it was something like kids learn more from how money feels in a family than what is said about it. So, kind of the tone and attitude around money in the home is a really good sort of table setter for how kids interpret and deal with money later on. I don't know if that's
Well,
if
yeah.
you agree with
Yeah, it's a
that.
money mindset. They
Mhm.
learn the money mindset early. We all did.
Mhm.
Like how we grew up, how you grew up. I know I grew up, we were very, very cash poor. We were
Mhm.
just poor, period. So there was never a lot of money. And so I'm very frugal as a result of that. My kids, when they were first growing up, I was extremely frugal. And then after 2008 happened, I'm like, okay, well, I have to live a little bit. I can't live in fear of running out of
Sure.
money anymore. So I loosened the purse strings a little bit.
Mhm.
But my youngest, as a result of that, has a little bit different relationship with money than my older two, right?
Okay.
My oldest one, we'll call him frugal. There's another word for it sometimes.
Cheap.
Yes, a little bit, a little bit. But I love that because he's like very careful with money. And my middle one is also extremely good with money.
Mhm.
My youngest, that money gets spent a couple times.
Yeah. Well, it's usually the younger ones anyways. They're a little more, wild and carefree than the than
Yeah.
the first two. I feel like I came of age when I really started to like appreciate money and kind of how to navigate life. It was the financial crisis of 2008.
Mm-hmm.
I was growing. We were living in the Detroit area.
Mm. Oh,
My father's job is interwoven with the auto industry. So
yeah.
that's like my first real memory
Huge impact.
of and what would talk about the tone and sort of feel in the house at that time. It
Yes.
was stressful.
Yeah.
It was things were very tight. Things we didn't know, what was going to happen next.
I think you're going to carry that with
I
you
think
for
so
the
too.
rest
I
of your
think it's
life.
shaped exactly where I'm at today.
Absolutely.
This
Absolutely.
fear of like preparing for what if, the
Mm-hmm.
unknowns, always
Mm-hmm.
having some kind of safety net. Seeing even the impact on my parents still today because of so much ground that was lost then.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of put me where I am. But then I feel like you don't want sometimes to um, transfer those fears or those
True.
stressors
True.
to your kids, but it is almost inevitable, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we were talking about people don't really use cash that much anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great way to teach children with the cash. So if you're teaching them about saving and spending and giving, and we said that $10 earlier,
Mm-hmm.
they could have jars. Like just think about a mason jar. They don't have to be very big, a little bit. And they can see, okay, well, you don't give them the $10 bill. Maybe you give them, all ones,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they can see, okay, well, I'm going to put, $3 in my save and $4 in my spend and $3 in my donate, and they
Mm-hmm.
can see after a couple weeks that just building in the jar, that has a very good positive impression on them. And that's something that will click and stay with them as well.
So starting even with something that's still tangible,
Yes.
so you can
Yes.
see it, you can
Yes.
visualize, you can
Yes.
associate.
Yeah. Think
Mm.
about when it's springtime, right? So people are going to start planting. If you plant a seed for a tomato plant and you do it inside until it gets a little bit bigger and then you transplant it, it's just dirt right away. And then you see the little sprout and then it gets bigger and bigger. You have that visualization and you do that with money too.
When I would get, $20 or whatever when I was 10 years old, I mean, that was like, forget it. I was
Yeah.
set for the month.
Yeah.
But, I'd also be like, well, what are we going to spend this on? Let's go spend this. And I had to learn sort of the difference between needs and what do you want? What do you
Oh,
want? What do you need? How do you approach
yes.
that conversation with your kids?
Well, I'm pretty, straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I talk about it pretty openly. We need housing, we need to eat, but we don't need to go buy coffees at the coffee shop every day.
Are you sure?
I'm not a coffee drinker, so yeah, it's easy for me to say no. But I get that you also have to live. So maybe, instead of doing it every day, every other day. But you also have like, okay, yes, we all need a communication device. So we all kind
Mm-hmm.
of need a phone. But do you need the latest phone? my phone's 4 or 5 years old at this point. Do I want a
Same.
new
Yeah.
phone?
Hmm.
Yes, but I drop it 5 times a day.
Exactly.
I do. It's
Hmm.
awful. I'm worse than my kids. But I also think, okay, I'm going to buy this new phone and I'm going to drop it. I'm going to break it eventually. So why not just wait till I break it and then I actually do
Yeah.
need a phone,
Yeah.
right? So, but it's easy. My son, my middle guy, came to me when the new iPhone came out. I guess the fall of last year it came out. And he's like, "Oh, the new iPhone's out. Can I get one?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "What?"
Thanks, Mom.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
awful. I said, "No." I was like, you don't need a new phone. Your
Hmm.
phone's only like 3 years old. Like, you don't need one. And
Yeah.
guess what he did? He saved for a couple months and he went out and bought his own new phone.
Mm.
Oh, so that was a want. It wasn't a need,
Hmm.
but he had to save for it and go get it. And now I wasn't anticipating that because I was like, well, maybe I'll, for Christmas and his birthday or
Yeah.
something. But I didn't.
Okay. But I mean, but that was a nice alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was impressed.
I've literally had the same conversation. Well, not with the child. I don't have a child. I had it with my husband.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
said, "Do you really need the new phone? It still makes calls. It still takes pictures. Well, it doesn't zoom, 15 times, whatever."
Oh,
He got the phone.
darn.
So it is what it is.
Oh,
It's
well.
fine.
Well, but here's the thing, though. You do have to pick and choose, right? It can't all be needs. There have to be some wants in there. And you just have to be selective about the
Sure.
wants and make sure the wants don't overtake the spending for the needs.
That's true. I like everything. Life is about balance.
Yeah.
I mean, you can reward yourself
Yeah.
sometimes. It's okay.
Yeah, it is okay.
Yeah.
It is okay.
You mentioned chores earlier. Is that still? I mean, that's an effective method, right? You gotta do something to earn something.
Yeah, because money is basically a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool for us to exchange for something that we want. So having children do chores teaches them, one, some good habits,
Hmm.
and so that you're not doing it at night yourself when they're in bed, right? And also it teaches them that, oh, if I do this, I get a little bit of money that I can exchange for something else. But if I don't do it,
Hmm.
then maybe mom and dad or dad and dad will not fund my little allowance bucket.
Hmm.
So I think it's a connection in their mind that says, if this, then that,
Okay.
right?
I had heard the argument made that, well, some of these chores, this is part of living in this house.
True.
You should be expected to contribute
Yeah.
without expecting a paycheck
Right,
at the end of
right.
it too.
Well, that's fair. That's
But
fair.
I think there's probably some middle ground
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
Interestingly though, like I grew up, I was never paid for chores.
Yeah.
I was just expected to
I was not
to
paid
help
for
out,
chores either. Yeah,
right?
right.
But I guess the give and take being I contributed around the house. If I did need something, I could usually go and ask and say, "Hey, can I get
Right.
$20 to go
Right.
out with my friends or something?"
Until they get to a certain age, right? Because
Yeah.
at a certain age, they can. All right. Well, I'll do the dinosaur thing. I had a paper route. I know.
What's a
stop.
paper?
No, they don't have them anymore. But in like 7th grade, I had a paper route, right? But I literally have worked since I was in 7th grade. I did the paper route. I worked at the local candy store or hoagie store. I've done a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So, when the kids get to a certain age, they can work in the ice cream store or at the grocery store or something like that for like the quote unquote real job, or they can help the little people in the neighborhood who can't do it themselves
Yeah.
with their lawn.
Shoveling.
Shoveling.
that's a
this
big one.
winter, they're going to
Mhm.
make some serious
Oh yeah, I
money.
think some people made
Woo,
banks of
They
kids.
made
Yeah.
bank.
Going back to what you talked about with your son and the phone, this idea too of like goal setting.
Hmm.
If you really want something, you can have it, but like work toward it.
Yeah.
Strategize how you're going to get there,
Hmm.
right? And that's a great practice for the rest of your life then.
It really does. And it starts the foundation for kind of your work ethic
Hmm.
and what you're willing to do to get towards your goals.
What is your opinion on opening credit cards for kids?
When they go to college,
Oh, we're waiting until college.
oh yeah, unless they're going somewhere else, I don't see a
Well,
need for
the
a
argument
credit
is
card.
you got to start building their credit history as early as possible. The longer history they have, the better. You know?
Well, you know what? The answer is not a blanket answer. For everybody has to do what's right for them
Yeah.
in their own
But you wouldn't
situation.
for your kids. You
I
didn't for your
didn't.
kids.
No, the only time I did was when one of my kids was in high school, and the high school was taking a trip to Spain,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to give them something, so I got a card that was in my name, and then I got like a card for him to use while he was away.
Sure.
But until that, no. And then I took it back when he
Yeah.
came back.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Right. And then when they're in college, they had same thing. They had a credit card that was tied to me. And then when they became juniors in college, they got a credit card in their own name to start their own thing. Now, you could start earlier, but I was just a little bit hesitant about the whole credit card thing because a lot of kids do some serious damage. And I wanted to be able to kind of educate them along the way and see what their habits were building up before I let them loose on the credit card world.
Yeah, before you give them that.
Yeah.
But if you are going to open them up with one earlier, you can put it under your name.
Mm-hmm.
What are there like day-to-day things that you did with your kids growing up to kind of like work it into just everyday life? You know, you're at the grocery store, there are little lessons to be learned here and there. Do you remember kind of what you would do with some of them?
Yeah, I would talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Like, when they would say, "Oh, can I have this or can we do that?" And sometimes it would be yes, and sometimes it would be like, "Well, not right now. We can't because we're doing, our money has to go to pay for this right now."
Mm-hmm.
And one of the times we were looking to go on a trip, and the kids were really excited because it was one of our first trips as a family that we took. It was, I think it was Disney. And they were super excited. And I was like, okay, well, leading up to it, we did some budget cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Like we didn't go out to dinner as much. We, whenever we were in a store, like I was not one of the moms who always gave in and got them stuff at the store anyway. But I was a little bit more crimped down on the budget before and after so that we could spend the money on Disney. And then I would just bring that up. And we didn't even go for long. We went for 4 or 5 days.
You don't have to.
But
It's a
a
still a lot. Yeah.
financial drain for
Yeah.
sure, but great memory, right?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you would have those open conversations leading up to and after that, hey kids, like
Yeah.
guess we're tightening things up this month
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
you can have a good time.
Yeah. One funny story is when we were, I forget how long ago this was now, but we were looking at buying a shore house because my husband had this plan and I had done the financial planning a long, long time ago. And I said, in X year, we will be able to afford the shore house, like a down payment and all that stuff where I could feel comfortable paying another mortgage. Well, don't you know, he called me out on that and we had to go looking at shore houses. And then I was doing the math.
Oh, he held you to it?
Oh, he held me to it. I was like, be careful what you tell your partners. So we were sitting down.
That's what he remembers.
Exactly.
That's what he was
right?
listening to. Yeah, yeah.
Listened to that conversation, but everything else he doesn't hear. So my oldest heard us talking about but that means we need a down payment, blah, 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 blah. And then a couple minutes later, my oldest runs in with his glass jar, and these were all coins, his glass jar full of coins. He's like, here, this is for the shore house.
Wow.
It was so heartwarming. And we used it because we wanted him to feel like he was part of
contributed.
it. Yeah. Yeah, we did.
Oh, how great.
It was adorable.
Do you remember how much was actually in the
was
jar?
like-
Was it like
$200-$300.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because he had the kids, they don't use their coins,
I have this vivid memory. I don't know how old I was. Remember they used to have those Coinstar machines?
Yes.
I had it was like one of those Coca-Cola bottle banks
Yep.
that was filled to the brim. And man, I don't even know how much I got out of there with, but it was a lot of money for at the time, however old I was. And it was all like pennies.
They still have them.
Do they still have them?
Well, I go.
Well, who's taking coins anymore?
I know. Well, right.
Yeah.
Well, they're dying for your pennies because apparently they
they need the
stopped making
pennies.
them, and
Yes.
then a day later there's a shortage. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, the pennies didn't go away; they're still out there. But I still save my coins. Like before I came here today, I emptied out my purse, and it was like 2 pounds of coins. And I know, don't look at me like that.
Do you really? Wow.
Because I still use cash. I know I'm
Where do you-
old.
look,
I'm a
but-
dinosaur.
Well, what do you do with them?
Oh, so I put them in it. Now it's not, we used to have we actually still do have like a water jug that's smaller version of it. We fill that, and then we have a Tide container that we fill. And then there's a credit union bank that actually still has a coin machine.
Oh, wow.
And like, so maybe once a year, once every other year, we get them full, and then we take them, and we're like, oh, a couple $100.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is fun. Found money.
Well, all right. Yeah, but you are a certified financial planner,
but
so
I'm
I
a
guess I
dinosaur.
shouldn't be surprised. No, it's good. It's fascinating. Tell me more about these coins.
I know.
No, just kidding.
My kids would be rolling their eyes right
I'm
now.
just kidding. What about I love the conversation about cost versus value.
Yeah. So sometimes, I'm all about like, oh, use your coupons or price comparison, but sometimes it might make sense to pay more and you get a quality item, whatever it is. It could be a pair of pants. You get a cheap pair of pants, and like I've had that where I've gotten a pair of pants and they were after a couple wears, they were like gross.
Yeah.
And then, so that taught me like, okay, well, let's go for a little bit better quality next time. And then I pay for the quality, and then those pants might last me for a couple of years.
Yeah, as opposed to the cheap pair of pants where you have to buy a new one every few, and then you paid what essentially you would have paid for the nice pair that would have lasted you just as long, right?
Yeah. So it's a balance. It's definitely a balancing act.
How young were your kids when you started talking about investing, and what was their first sort of experience with investments?
Their experience, well, 529s, because they've had 529 since they were babies.
Okay.
We
And the
always talk
529
about
is?
it. Oh, so sorry. Thank you. College savings plan. Because I had to put myself through college. It was very, very important to me that they would have a college fund. So literally it was like a mortgage payment for me every month. 3 kids, pretty easy to make make it a mortgage payment because they're expensive. So we would talk about that a lot. Like, oh, birthdays and holidays, I would ask the aunts, uncles, grandparents, like, hey, they don't really need anything else. Can you just write a check to the 529?
Okay.
So they still,
Well, I mean,
they still got stuff too, but they were spoiled.
But
Believe me, they're still
I'm sure
spoiled.
they appreciated it later on, though, right?
Yeah, now they do. At
Yeah.
the time, they were like, really? But when they're young, it doesn't matter because they don't know any better, right?
Yeah.
It's when they get a little bit older, like, hey, I wouldn't mind that money in my pocket, right?
Right.
So that was one of the things. And then when my kids were in high school, they would work for me and we would pay them, for whatever they did to help at my office. Like, usually it's like technology, because they're better at technology, just because of the generation. And then whatever I paid them, I would contribute to a Roth IRA for them because you have to have earnings, right? And whatever they earned, I could up to a certain amount. I was able to open and fund Roth IRAs for them. And my middle son, he's like, yeah, this is boring, and I'd rather have the money. I'm like, yes, but 60-year-old Matt is going to love me.
Thank you.
You are going to be loving your retirement because of what we're doing right here, because we're going to do it every year. He's like, yeah, 60-year-old Matt doesn't really care. I'm like, oh yeah, you're going to be thanking me. I'm not going to be here, but you're going to thank me.
Like compounding interest.
Yes.
You're going to love that kid one day. Yeah. So their first foray into it was you setting up these accounts. You were contributing partly to at least the 529s, or family was. And then eventually were they also able to contribute?
I used their earnings.
You used their earnings.
Earnings
from the
529
office.
to the 529. Yeah. And now they both have their own they still have their Roth IRAs and contribute.
Okay.
And then they both also have investment accounts that from, working, one has co-op, so he made money, and then the other ones, they all worked in summers. So whatever they make there, we say, okay, well, here's a portion for spending, here's a portion for saving, and, a little bit for rainy day savings, but then stuff that you're not going to need for a while, let's open an investment account. And we'll talk about, stocks and ETFs and all the fun things, mutual funds that you can invest in. And so it was like a triple lesson so that, they earn the money, they save the money, and then they learned about how to invest it. So that's what we've done.
Okay.
And now they come to me and say, oh, well, Mom, what do you think about this? Should I sell this and buy that? And so it's actually a conversation. It's pretty cool.
Do you have, I was talking about recommending people go talk to a financial advisor or help you set up, your retirement and savings accounts. Do you have people come in and also like, well, hey, what about your kids too? Like, do
Yeah.
people think about that, or do they bring that up?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have
Yeah.
parents who say, "Will you talk to my kids?" And
Okay.
I also approach my clients as their kids are graduating college and getting their first jobs. I say to them, "I would love to spend some time talking to your son or daughter about joining the 401k plan and how to use their paycheck wisely and start saving some money and not living on the full amount, because they're used to being poor. They're used to not having money in their pockets. This is a great place to start setting the stage for what they should do."
Mm-hmm. It's so funny just thinking about like your kids, like, oh, really, a 529 contribution for Christmas or whatever. I used to get savings bonds
Oh, yeah.
from my grandma and
Oh,
grandpa
yeah.
for years.
Yeah.
And after like 30 years, most of them finally matured. That was nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
I had,
see?
up until that point, I was like, what are these things? Yeah.
Future you appreciated it.
Future me really appreciated it. And that was like, that was something every year, there'd be the little savings bonds envelope on the Christmas tree.
My father-in-law, when he got like annoyed with me because he wanted the kids to be able to spend the money.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually he would split his gift and he would write the check for the 529
Mm-hmm.
and then he would put $20 bill in there, and the note said, "You have to let them spend this."
Give them something. Throw them a
And
bone.
I was like, "Oh, am I
Yeah.
really that
Throw
bad?"
them a bone. But again, they've appreciated it later on, right?
Yeah.
But, granted, you are a certified, financial planner. You've got a great background in this kind of stuff. A lot of parents, though, don't. A lot of parents wouldn't even know kind of where to begin. So what would you recommend for them? Because I'd imagine a lot of people, wouldn't even know where to start
Yeah.
with opening up a 529
Yeah,
to
no,
even
that's
have
true.
that conversation.
That's very true.
Mhm.
Well, they could obviously Google or ChatGPT it, but there's a lot of great podcasts out there for basic, like even searching basic financial podcasts, like for beginners.
Mhm.
There are some pretty good ones. There's some books. People probably aren't going to read them, but a podcast people putting on and drive while they're driving,
Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
listen to it.
Mhm.
But I'm a huge podcast person. I love listening to them and watching them and all that fun stuff. So, and I think a lot of people do that in their cars now.
Mhm. Just for like basic.
Yeah.
Where do you
Basic.
begin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and now you're on the podcast all
Yeah.
the time.
Yay.
Gotcha. You're talking about like, you're talking about your coins. What about checks? do kids don't even know how to like write out what a check is, let alone fill out a check? That's something that's not even taught anymore, I don't think, right?
No, there's no financial literacy classes taught in high school or college as part of a curriculum,
Yes.
Except sporadically.
Sporadically, yeah.
So they get kicked out of college, here's your degree and go, but they're not taught financial basic understanding. So they don't know how to write checks. They don't know what to do with a check. Unless they have grandparents, like my mom writes checks to them, so they know how to deposit it eventually. But I think that would also be a really good thing. Like as your kids are graduating or, even in high school, start teaching them, like let them see you writing some checks. And even though we have a lot of web bill pay, there's certain things you still have to write a check for, I think. I do.
Trying to think.
Yeah.
When the last time I wrote a check for, I don't know.
But you're a younger generation,
What if-
right?
But I was still,
Yeah.
I did have a checkbook at one time.
Yeah.
I remember watching my mother balance the checkbook.
Yes. Oh,
I
I
don't-
used to do that all the time. I don't have to do it anymore.
I don't
but
even know.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess I never even learned what that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think teaching them about the checkbook, looking at what they're spending out of the bank account, because a lot of times they have these auto drafts or auto payments going on, and they want to, pay attention to that sometimes too. So that's a great conversation to have with the kids as well.
Well, and the sooner you start, most people don't even want to talk about money, right? It's like one of the most
Oh, it's a
uncomfortable
taboo.
things
Taboo topic.
for people to have a conversation about. And so, the earlier you can start with your kids where it does become normalized, right? The better off in the end, because then it doesn't feel taboo when it does finally come up. And I do find, though, it's a generational thing. I feel like a lot of younger people today feel more comfortable than other generations, and maybe it's just because we've got TikTok and people talk about it. It is talked about more
I'm good.
now.
I'm
right?
so happy to hear that.
Yeah,
Because it was a taboo topic when I was growing up. You don't talk about finances
no,
in the
or
family.
how much someone makes, or
Yeah.
what they paid for their home, or or anything like that.
Yeah.
Now at least maybe I have a weird friend group, but we're talking
No,
about
that's
what's
great.
your mortgage rate?
Yeah.
Like
No, that is great that you guys
stuff
talk
like
about
that.
Love
Weird.
that. Love it.
We're a ball to hang around with.
I would fit right in.
You would.
If
You
you guys are
would.
talking about that, I'd
You
fit right
absolutely
in.
would, yeah. Certified financial planner, founder of Forge Wealth Management, Melbourne, and author of Superwoman Wealth, Regina McCann Hess. We always appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Glad to be here.